Hey, welcome to the Rundown with Ramon, another episode. I'm glad you're here with me today. In today's show, we're going to talk about so many things, including how much should you forgive? We're going to take lessons from WeWork founder Adam Neumann. Is Ramon automating his home too much? Is it too much comfort or not? And that's not all. There are a lot more tips and insights to help you live your best life on the Rundown with Ramon. And as you know, if you've been with us for a few weeks now, in each episode, I'll help you grow your business and improve your life. By the way, just to get to know you a bit better so you can get to know me better, I have 2 adult children, been married almost 30 years. I'm a serial entrepreneur, best-selling author of several books, a keynote speaker, and you can get to know me better at RamonRay.com. And definitely check out my new venture all about helping you live your best life at zoneofgenius.com, zoneofgenius.com. With that, let's get started on the Rundown with Ramon. So, WeWork founder Adam Neumann is bouncing back, says a report I read on Axios. And it says basically, as you may remember, WeWork went through a bit of turmoil. They wanted to go public. There was a bit of issue with their valuation. People looked in deeper to it and saw there were some issues, and they were saying they're a real estate company. They were saying they were a tech company, rather. And people said, maybe you should have just said you're a real estate company. So if you followed WeWork's journey, this company that was growing and growing and growing, and then kind of imploded. But Adam Neumann is the founder there. And the news is that Andreessen Horowitz made a recent announcement that they're investing $350 million into Adam's new fund called Newman's Flow, which is all about real estate. So it got me thinking, should people be offered redemption? And if they should, how much redemption should they be offered? I know in my life, I've not been a perfect person, and I'm sure that may be the same with you, not being a perfect person, and you are grateful for somebody giving you redemption, grateful for somebody giving you a second chance. So it's my question for us all to think, those times when people do us wrong, those people when things don't always go the way they should, those times when people break our trust, make a mistake, should we give them redemption? I fall on the side of yes, I think we should give them redemption. But it really depends on the context as well and what happened. Is their heart like sour and dark and they're doing some evil stuff? Or they just make a mistake? I'd be curious what you think, by the way. DM me on Instagram, Ramon Ray Smart Hustle on Instagram, and let me know what you think about the aspect of redemption. Donnie McClurkin, famous gospel artist, his famous song, right? We fall down and we get up. Lessons learned for all of us about we are going to fall down, but we all want grace. So I'm looking forward to Adam Neumann creating a new company and hope he's learned lessons from his previous venture. How to make your old phone last. Listen, everybody may not be ready to upgrade and get the latest or greatest phones in their life. Everybody may not be ready to do that. And if you're not ready to do that, to get the latest or greatest phone, neither should you have to. What are some things you should do? Wall Street Journal had an interesting article which gave a few tips that you can give due to your phone to keep it in relatively tip-top shape, especially if you're not ready to quite upgrade to the latest and greatest. One thing they say is check your software compatibility. You really want to update your software. If you haven't updated your OS, the operating system of your phone, in some time, you really should do that. Bug fixes happen. It enhances the security. Once in a while, the phone doesn't work as they promised, but generally speaking, the updates do improve the accessibility of your phone. They also said assess your charging habits. How are you charging your phone? Are you leaving your phone plugged in all day long? For some older phones, that could impact your battery life. And talking about battery life, if you have a phone that you're able to replace the battery, by replacing your battery, you may extend the speed and life of your phone as well. And here's one tip: getting a replacement once your battery health percentage drops below 80% of its original capacity could increase performance. So if your battery's not operating the best way it should be, you may want to consider getting a new battery for your phone. And there's another thing you can do, a really simple thing. I've done this, in fact, with my phone. Get a good phone case. A good phone case will protect your phone when it drops. And if you have a good phone case, you can find that can extend the life of your phone for some time. Movie theaters. I'm curious. Is your family a movie theater family or not a movie theater family? But during the pandemic, people were saying that, you know what, movie theaters are done, game over for movie theaters, but it seems like they're on the rebound. That according to a study or some thoughts, the summer movie season is wrapping up with several blockbusters. Studio executives are signaling a commitment to the big screen. I enjoy watching movies at home with my family and friends, but you know what? A movie theater for some of you could be a great experience, especially those movie theaters where you can sit on the big couch or the big chair, the relaxed chair, and boop, hit a button and order food. A movie theater could be just the right thing you may want on a Friday night with your significant other or your family. So I'm glad to see that movie theaters are coming back, but even that living room experience is pretty good as well. The rise of the worker productivity score. This is interesting. Across industries and incomes, says here the news article, more employees are being tracked, recorded, and ranked. Here's the thing. If you're working for an employer who's tracking and ranking and etc., I do understand it. Employees are not here as charitable organizations. They're here to do one thing alone, and that's to make money for their shareholders, to compensate the employees that work for them, and hopefully to be good stewards of the world that they're in, and maybe in some way be good stewards of their surrounding neighborhoods and communities, whether on a global level or local level. But do understand, if companies don't make money, they're not going to have a company. So on one hand, you have the employees, the workers here, fast food restaurants track these kind of things, Amazon tracks these kind of things, but nobody wants to feel an overwhelming source of doom that they're being watched 24/7. So what to do? You know what? I really don't have an answer for you. If you're in an industry where you're being tracked, where you're being, you feel like everything you're doing is being micromanaged, I get it. That could feel a bit, domineering, could be a bit excessive. Maybe you need to work for a company where there's a bit more chill rules, where they're measuring your output, not so much what you're doing or how you're doing it. But listen, you could be a stage in life where you have to work at a more transactional company like an Amazon, like a Walmart, where they're maybe not paying so much, but it's the job you can get at that time, and you may have to endure that. But one thing I will tell you, can you have a discussion with your boss or your boss's boss? Can you prove your value beyond the transaction of what you're doing? So that's one thing I got out of this. The rise of worker productivity score. Yes, companies want more and more productivity from their workers. On the other hand, no worker wants to feel like they're in a microscope as a gerbil. But some places, that's kind of what it is. The perfect headshot. I'm curious. Is the perfect headshot worth $1,000? Maybe it is. In my point of view, I think especially if you have a public-facing job, you're a speaker, you're in sales, something like that. Maybe you're not working in a warehouse per se, but who you are matters. Having a professional headshot can work. These are some headshots I have. I recently, this is some older shots, but I have professional headshots on my business cards and things. And I think headshots are important. I think it's really important to consider the image we have, especially if you're a creator, you're out there on Facebook or TikTok or LinkedIn or Instagram, etc. Image matters. So should you get a $5,000 headshot, every day? Probably you don't need that. But once a year, twice a year, it could be worth it for you to invest in getting professionally done series of headshots, even action shots for your business. It can make all the difference on if you're hired or if you're not hired. So yeah, I'm a firm believer in professional headshots. Now, me as a professional speaker, speaking around the world, I kind of cheat a little bit because I have a lot of pictures taken of me at the events I'm at, so I can often use those with permission. And my cell phone, I must say, takes pretty good shots. One tip, take your phone, have a friend do it for you, hit the portrait button. The portrait button, I'm not sure what it is on iPhone or Android if it's different, but that thing where it blurs the background and has you in focus and crisp, that's how you can get some pretty good shots. I have a question for you, the Rundown with Ramon audience. Should Ramon do a bit more automation in his home? We have a traditional thermostat, not the old kind that our grandfathers used and grandmothers that turn like this, the manual dial, but we have a nice electronic when you go boop, 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 change the temperature. But I'm wondering, should I get a app-based thermostat, like a Nest or some other brand thermostat should I get? Here's why. In our room, we put the house down. My wife likes the house a little cooler at night as she gets ready to go to bed about 11 o'clock or so at night or later. But then in the middle of the night, after she's been sleeping for a few hours, it gets kind of colder. I'm cool, and the house is cool enough. And all the time, manually setting the temperature for a timing doesn't quite work. So I thought, maybe I should get one of those cool app-based thermostats. But then I thought again, maybe I shouldn't get that. What's wrong with me suffering, as it were, a bit? What's wrong with me, toughing it out? But I posted this on Facebook, and my community told me, Ramon, for the sake of your wife, for the sake of your own comfort, to get a good night's rest, it's okay to get a high-end thermostat. But I'm curious, Rundown with Ramon audience, what do you think? Do you have the app-based thermostats and like it? Or do you like the old school ones and setting it maybe manually or something like that? I'm not sure it's the right decision. Could you do me a favor? Could you DM me on Instagram and let me know what you think? On Instagram, I'm Ramon Ray Smart Hustle. DM me and let me know what you think about app-based thermostat, which kind do you like or not, and let me know you're hearing me on The Rundown with Ramon. Well, you've just seen me show my business cards, and there's always been people saying, are business cards old-fashioned or not? And I always like to bring this up because I'm a firm believer. I think nothing beats having a business card and quickly giving it to someone. Here, that's easy to do. That's fast. There's a lot of apps that can do things. LinkedIn can do things through your phone and smartphone. But I find that it just takes too much time, from my opinion. I gotta hit this button, bump our phones together. Some people, younger people, like it, and I think there's value in that. But I find also I do 10 or 20 of those new contacts a day. I often forget who I had the contact with the business card. I can read it and see it right there, So that's my thought on that, business cards. So, but I'd like to know what you think. Are business cards valuable or not? Twitter. TechCrunch reports that Twitter keeps evolving. It has Twitter for Business and other things that they're doing with Twitter. We know about Facebook, it's growing. TikTok is growing. Instagram is growing. But we don't hear too much about TikTok unless you've been following what's going on with Elon Musk buying Twitter or not buying Twitter, buying Twitter or not buying Twitter. But I'm curious, what do you think? Do you use Twitter quite a bit? I use Twitter quite a bit. I'm Ramon Ray on Twitter, so look me up and tweet me, follow me. But what say ye? Is there some case that more and more people may want to consider using Twitter in your business in some way? I happen to like Twitter. I was on there early, so I have about 30,000 users. And maybe I'm saying that because that's a platform that I use quite a bit. But Facebook works too. Instagram works too. And I've been on Clubhouse quite a bit as well. So I really think the answer to that, it's a rhetorical question, is really go where your audience is at. Go where your community is at. That's probably the best community for you to check out. But the question still reigns, is Twitter still viable? What do you think? I think it is viable, depending on what industry you're in and depending on where your audience is at. And the biggest thing to note, of course, is that Twitter Spaces, the audio-only portion of Twitter, is growing. How many of you like to save money? I know I sure do. Dave Ramsey had an interesting article up about some money-saving apps that people can check out. And my thought on that, he mentioned some apps, and you can just go to RamseySolutions.com and probably look up money-saving apps. But there's two things to think about. I'd like to know if you use money-saving apps, if they work. And here's the thing. Are the money-saving apps a waste of time? Or indeed, are they helpful to helping you save money or making money? And here's the thing that I realized and what I grasped from the article. Yes, many of the apps do work and give you cash back, help you save money. But it could be quite a bit of time before you get that money back. So you really have to think, how much money are you saving? Is it worth the time that it takes to get that money? And is it worth how long it takes to get that money back? So I just wanted to throw it out to you, but if you're crunched for money, you're looking for some ways to generate extra income, there's Instacart, there's Uber, there's using traditional coupons or app-based coupons and money-saving apps that can help you save $1 or $2 or more on your next grocery bill. The right way to vent at work. This was an interesting article by Toronto-based industrial organizational psychologist was quoted in this article, Leanne Davey. And Leanne says, wrap up with an action or plan. As you're thinking of venting, don't just vent, but think, do you need to talk with the coworker who lobbed the comment that set you off, or slip out for a walk to further dial down the pressure? So before you vent and say anything, do think what you're going to say, how you're going to say, and how impactful or not impactful that's going to be. And then also they said when you're venting, be careful of blabbing all that and putting that out in a text or writing that down in social media. You may want to have a private conversation, because remember, what you write down is tracked forever. So listen, that was the Rundown with Ramon, and I'm so glad you joined me today for the Rundown with Ramon. But now, for the favorite part of the show, the Rundown with Ramon panel of experts to get their expert insights, life lessons, and comments and opinion on what we talked about today. Thanks for watching. Now let's go to our expert panel. Everybody, so welcome back. This is my favorite part of the show on the Rundown with Ramon, as we talk to our expert panelists about the issues of the day. We've talked about so many things, and now we're going to have my good friend Larissa Harrington, David Hill are going to dive into some of the things we just talked about. Before we begin, Larissa Harrington, tell us again who you are, what you do. And as I always like to say, the best way for people to reach you, take a moment and take the stage, Larissa.
Thank you, my friend. I'm so excited to be here and chat with you both. And I am Larissa Harrington. I am a coach and consultant and educator around mindfulness and emotional intelligence. And I work with people to help them resolve and heal from past grief and trauma, help them be more present in the moment, and really live the life of their dreams, where they're making a meaningful impact in the world. And so I love all of the things, but really working with high achievers, people who are out there trying to make a positive impact in the world. And you can reach me at Strong by Nature Wellness.
Love it. Thank you, Larissa. Thanks for being here. And I have worked with you and definitely get to hear your voice on our mutual community we're in, Breakfast with Champions. So we know the great work you do. David Hill, what's up, man? Brother from another mother. Thanks for being here. Same thing. Talk to us about what you do yourself, who you serve, and then we'll dive into today's episode of Rundown with Ramon.
Ramon, I love it. Yeah, I serve salespeople, man. I am 40 years in the sales space. I work with salespeople on helping them become more effective at greeting people, doing follow-up, handling objections, closing sales, ultimately making more money, brother. That's what I do. I work and I coach. I also do more sales and business coaching. I'm in that coaching side of the business, not so much the, like life coaching and stuff, but helping people become more effective making money. So I help people make more money, Ramon. That's what I do.
And I know you do it well, because you've done like live stuff on Clubhouse, like, watch this. I'm going to call this stranger and they're going to buy a $500,000 condo right now, they're American Express. And they've done it, kind of. So, David.
Oh, yeah, man.
He's like, Ramon, you're exaggerating a bit, but that's just take the accolades, David.
You're used to it, bro. It's good, man. I love it.
All right, everybody. Larissa, I'm going to throw this first to you. WeWork, as many people listening to us know, WeWork for years has been that company that, said we're a tech company, not a real estate company, but they had a crash and burn, my words, but that's the essence. WeWork, a great space that I've used, many of you may have used before, where we get shared workspace. Their founder, let me go back to my notes here, Adam Newman, he led that kind of disgrace, as it were, my words again, where WeWork had a falling out when they tried to go public and etc. But the point being, Larissa, he's now back. He has a brand new company called something amazing. Let me hear. He has a brand new company called Newman's Flow, which is a real estate venture aimed at disrupting the residential real estate market. So my question to you, Larissa, and as we talked about offline, he's coming, should Adam Newman, and not just him, this is in general, lessons learned for all, when should entrepreneurs, Larissa gave them 100 million, they burned it, Larissa? Should they have grace and a full qualification? In his case, I understand there could have been some interesting issues, but let's take it to the higher level. When should people be given grace? When should people be saying, nah, you kind of messed up too much and that's it? What do you say, Larissa?
Yeah, I actually love the redemption stories and love when I like working with people who have made mistakes in their past, as long as they are learning and growing from their mistakes. And so I don't know, like all the ins and outs of what's going on in that specific thing, but I think in general, like giving people grace, allowing people second chances or third or fourth chances, because I think we're all just learning and growing every day. And so are you looking at those mistakes and saying, okay, what did I do that played a part in this? What could I have done differently? And if you're learning and growing, I am all about investing in people who are doing that inner work.
That's right. Larissa has given me grace. I won't belabor the story, Larissa, but wink, wink. You know exactly what I mean. David Hill, you're in the real estate, so you may have even deeper specific insight into the real estate market. But the overall question, David, when do you tell people, you know what, no problem. I'll give you grace. You screwed up. I'll do it again. And when do you say, no, I've kind of broken trust, or I don't want to, the fourth mistake is too much. Talk to us about that, David.
Yeah, there's that old saying, you get me once, shame on you. You get me twice, shame on me, right? Something like that.
Sure.
So, I listen. I'm just gonna say this straight out. If I wasn't given grace in 2002, I probably would be in prison right now.
Yes.
That's where I was heading with my childhood, with my upbringing. A judge, for whatever reason, decided instead of locking me up, he decided to send me to a 6-month alcohol rehabilitation center, which changed my life. So that was a defining moment where somebody gave me a second chance. They didn't have to. I had already accrued a pretty good record starting at a young age. So I'm a believer in second chances, man. I think, everybody, I shouldn't say that. There's some people, depends on, your intention, right? What is somebody's intention, right? Like, that's really what, just because there's some people that just aren't, unfortunately, there's some people that don't have good intentions.
Sure.
But I think there's also people that have issues and people that made mistakes. And if your intentions are good, then you deserve a second chance. So that's my thought process on that.
I like that. So what I'm hearing about second chances, David, and then I'd love you to put a bow on this, Larissa, for us. But I think that what I'm hearing is that in general, we like second chances, but the intention is important. Someone who's truly sorrowful, made a mistake, whatever, even second or third time, yes. But if quote unquote, they're an evil person, I use that word very broadly, like they've wrote in their diary, I'm going to kill people or whatever it may be. You're like, nah, maybe we should look at this twice. That kind of what I'm hearing, David.
Well, I mean, listen, I had a really bad childhood, and my father was just, not a good role model. So he taught me some things at a young age that, you don't want kids to go through. So what it did was it affected me as becoming an adolescent and a teenager and then a young adult. And I didn't know right from wrong at the time. And I think there's a lot. And so for me, the question, I used to go into the schools, and I need to get back to it. Used to go to all the schools locally, and I would talk to the kids at graduation. And, some of the schools in the more depressed areas, where they're dealing with things, they can relate to going through the childhood, watching your dad beat up your mom, things like that. And let them realize, hey, just because this is where you come from doesn't mean that's where you need to go in life. So I'm a big fan of second chances. And I think, at some point, we have to take responsibility for things we've done, and then you'll make a decision. Am I going to learn and change like I did? Like, there was a lot of things I needed to change in my life, and it's been a lot of work. November is going to be 20 years for me, 20 years of sobriety, and that was a big change for me in my life. So obviously this topic definitely hits a chord with me. But yeah, that's kind of my thought process, Ramon.
I appreciate it. Larissa, put a bow on this. What if, from your experience, what you're saying, continue this discussion, as we move on to the next point, but I'd love to hear what your final thoughts are on redemption and second chances or not. What do you think?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing a little bit more about your story, David. And, I love the word intention, but I also think, yes, giving people second chances and just using investing. If I invest $100 million, which I don't have yet, but one day I'm going to invest $100 million in somebody. And if they blow my money and they're doing things that I don't agree with, I'm not going to give that same person $100 million again. But am I going to give up on them as a person? No, because, what David was talking about and some of the things that people have experienced who have grown up around trauma, who, if that was modeled for you in every aspect of your life, and you make one mistake and then you make that same mistake again, I will give you more chances and I will still want to invest in you as a human being. So I think there's a difference in like investing the same thing, like giving the same $100 million to someone who's not doing what they should be doing with it, versus like just giving up on a human altogether.
No, for sure. I love that for sure. And even when I think of myself for my two children, I have two adult children, and I think one lives with us, she's an adult in her home. And I think about, you did this, you crashed the car, didn't take out the trash, didn't vacuum, didn't do the dishes, or you sassed your mom, whatever it is. Larissa and David, I was a terrible dude. I was just a terrible, sarcastic, rebellious, So meaning that doesn't excuse my own children how I treat them, but I always pause. Ramon, you know what? You were just like that, sassing your mom or dad. So to our point, I think we're all agreeing on that for sure. This is good. Listen, David Hill, curious. You seem like a guy, David, I shouldn't make assumptions, but you seem like a guy with the latest and greatest type of phones. Larissa Harrington, I'm not sure what type of gal she is. Okay. But there was an interesting article, David Hill, in the Wall Street Journal where they just talked about, you know what? Everybody may not be able to afford or want to or see a reason to upgrade to the latest phone. I happen to. I'm a creator, as it were, digerati, whatever. That's my job. So I tend to have multiple tripods and phones and things like this. But what they said, David, was pretty interesting. Just things like check your software to assess your charging habits and how to boost your speed, maybe replacing your battery. Curious, David, what kind of guy are you? Are you I upgrade the latest phone, I'm in line for 10 miles when Steve Jobs is finished at the Apple conference? Or are you like, no, I'm going to go to the Best Buy, secondhand lot? What kind of guy are you, David?
That's a fun question. I am in the middle, Ramon. I am not the guy that's going to wait in line. I'm very impatient. Like putting a tent outside of an Apple store is the last thing I'm ever going to do. However, I'm all right waiting a couple weeks.
Okay.
So you can kind of put me on the front end of it. Like I'm not at the bottom, right at the bottom of the bell curve, but I'm kind of, you know what I mean? Not right in the middle like everybody else. So I think it's important. I want to have the best technology. I'm big into social media, video. So to me, video is important. Having the streaming and the capability, I think, is really, really important. We pay for up 1 gig internet service, so we have that ability as well. So I think the technology is really important personally, but I'm not the guy that's going to wait in line for it. I'm okay waiting a couple weeks. Let everybody else do what they need to do, overpay, do whatever you got to do. Then I'll go grab it. And then the reality is, here's the other thing, and I'll wrap with this. I mean, even if you have the iPhone 12, which I think I still have the iPhone 12, to be honest with you. So that tells you something about me, because there is a 13 now. But the 12's good enough, man,
Yes.
right at this point. So is sleeping in line gonna change my life? I don't think so. Although now that I'm thinking about it, I probably do need to upgrade to the next one.
Use my affiliate link. David, you and I are going to
Although I've got the best iPhone 12, Ramon. Like I got the highest. It's like 512. It's got the three cameras. It's got all the bells and whistles.
I love it. So, David, you and I are going to vote on what kind of person we think Larissa is, David. So, is Larissa the person who gets crackers and cheese and sleeps outside of the iPhone store? Like she's person number one and she's there for months on end, David? Is that type of person? Or is she the person like still dusting off her
chill. Larissa's going to just go with the flow. That's my thought. I could be wrong, though.
My vote, David, I think Larissa secretly, I think she's like sleeping I think she's outside of Steve Jobs' house to getting the iPhone as it comes off the factory. Now let's see if we're
love that.
Larissa.
Yeah,
actually, this is a green screen and I'm sitting outside of his house right now, like just waiting to find out when the next phone drops. You caught me. But yeah, in all honesty, I'm kind of in between.
Okay.
I know there's all the ways to like make your phone last longer, but for me, as soon as it stops being reliable, like fast and I take pictures all the time, right? As long as it's reliable for me, then it's good. And in all honesty, I don't even know when phones come out. I'll tell you a secret. I don't really watch the news or keep up with anything, but my husband will just tell me like, hey, I think it's time for you to get a new phone. And then he'll do it. I don't know what version I have.
I love it. I love it.
Wow.
Hey, Larissa, I love it. Let's talk though about Larissa again. If this is not the right question, reword it how you want. But since you're like a mindset person, I'll call you that. I'm a lay person, but I'll put you in that bucket. What causes, like if you see somebody who has a really old phone and won't upgrade, or somebody like a Ramon who gets the latest phone, for example, is there anything in our past or anything in our minds that impact those things, or that's just the nature of the beast? Anything like cool inside the brain that you can tell us, or not really?
Possibly. I would say, are there other areas in your life where what you have is not enough, right? Like there are people that no matter what they get, it's never enough. New phone, new shoes, new car, that they're constantly like craving the newness. Then yeah, maybe there are things that I would like to work with that person on. If it's like, hey, this is my job, where Dave was talking about, having 1 gig speed for internet and wanting to be able to stream. If you need the newest phone and the best in all of the tech stuff because that's your job, I think that's a different a different thing to focus on.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And for me, it's in the middle, Larissa. Like even this background, the studio I do have FOMO-ish, I guess, looking at others. It could be you or David, whatever. Maybe those are natural things, but then there's a tweak of it, part of my job, if that makes sense. So, I think humans are not, there's no one way size fits all. Like I'm not a car guy. I'm not a sports guy, could be because of how I was brought up, but yet from my profession, indeed, I'll look at, like right now, I'm saying, Larissa, I'm looking at David's jacket and collar, and I'm like, you know what? That looks pretty cool. Maybe I should have that. I don't know. That's just what I'm saying.
Thanks, Ramon.
Good awareness.
Yes, indeed. David, I want to turn to you for this, David. This is an interesting article I read in the New York Times about the rise of worker productivity. But David, it was tied to the aspect of corporations, quote unquote, spying on us. Now, you can answer this any way you want. And I think that we'll all agree. I would like to think that, Larissa has a team. David, you have a team. We want productivity. We want our teams to be productive. But I know your hearts, we want our teams to live fulfilled lives. But what do you think, David, about corporations spying on employees? You're working for big company X and talking here to the Black Enterprise, our audience here, the Rundown with Ramon audience. Should they kind of leave the job, David, if they kind of feel a bit, man, they're on my back too much? Or should they stay to grit it out because it's a company who needs to make money? I know I'm throwing a lot at you, David, but what do you think about this mess?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I've used virtual assistants for over 10 years now. I noticed probably not a lot of people that were using VAs that long ago. And, my philosophy's always been, you give them the job and, as long as the job's getting done, I personally, I don't care, as long as the job's getting done, I'm not concerned about, all the things that are happening in between. So I wouldn't personally spy on somebody, but, I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough about it, I guess, to answer super intelligently about it. But I mean, I think there should be accountability.
Sure.
I think there should be expectations that are set. And I know there's a lot of talk these days about, I'm trying to say politically correct, the newer generation not having the same work ethic, right? I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just saying there's a lot more talk about that and, people's expectations. And so I think for me personally, my assistants, we get together in the morning. Right now I have an assistant and 2 VAs, and we get on a Zoom together, and I assign these are the tasks we're going to do today. And then everybody's off doing their things. And I typically sometimes talk to them. Other times I won't talk to them again until tomorrow, and things are getting done. And as long as things are getting done, I don't worry about it. I don't need to know exactly what they're doing at all moments of the day, and that's what works for me. So I'll pass it back to you, Ramon.
Yeah, no, for sure, Larissa. I mean, would you stay, Larissa, at a company? And feel free to answer the preceding question. But Larissa, would you stay at big company X if boss Jenny came up to you? Hey, Larissa, we found out you're only typing 71 words a minute, but we realized that everybody else is doing 75 words a minute. Therefore, we're going to get that kind of thing, firing the bottom people, things of that nature. Or would you hustle it out and answering it, of course, to give guidance to those listening to us? Those may be in those situations and they're feeling, man, they said I was going 62.9 miles an hour and I have one demerit left. What do you say, Larissa?
Yeah, I think it's for me about the accountability that David was talking about, but then also, is there training? Is there support? Is it that, you're looking at everybody as being the same, where I know that you, Ramon, are a joyful human who, I'm sure if you're working in a space, you might be showing productivity in other ways. You might be showing your value in other ways, whereas there's somebody else who is just like typing however many words a minute, but they're not bringing as much value to the company. And so I think, what David was talking about with his team and my team is the same. I don't track their hours. I don't care. Like, they just have a set salary. Like, this is what needs to be done. Sometimes you probably work more hours and sometimes you don't. I don't care, because I just want you to do the work that needs to be done, and us to have the communication of like, do you need support with anything? Is there anything that you're struggling with? And I think that for me is the most important piece when you're looking at tracking. Yeah. Are you just firing the people that are not producing, or are there conversations? Is there support? Are you looking at, hey, maybe we need to change how we are actually measuring productivity and value in the company as a whole?
Yeah. No, that is true. And I think, David, you're in real estate. Correct me if you don't like the question, if I'm wrong, but I suspect numbers, the little bit I've heard from you as well, I think numbers are pretty important to you in your business. How does that impact how you look at things, David? Numbers driven metrics, not that Larissa's not, but versus Larissa, again, if you don't like the question, reword it, but maybe having a softer side to what she does, how she measures it. Is that a fair question, David? If you understand what I'm asking, just you may seem to be more driven, like, hey, did we close? Did we get this percentage? What's the mortgage API? That type of business may be a bit different than
it is.
Yeah. So talk about that.
It is. I mean, it's totally different. I mean, VAs, they're doing tasks. They're doing social media, getting our database set up, getting email things, getting my podcast things, all stuff like that. Where salespeople, you in order for them, because they're independent contractors. So if they're, ultimately, if they're not hitting numbers, they're not making money. And if they're not making money, then that affects it affects them more than it affects me. I mean, it affects their lifestyle. It affects their fulfillment, the things that they can do. So yeah, I mean, I personally don't deal with as many salespeople now as I did in the past. But when I was running my real estate team, everybody, there was a certain amount of conversations you were going to have. There were a certain amount of appointments you were going to go on a week, and we met, and it wasn't about making somebody right or wrong. It was just about holding them to the goal that they set for themselves. And what we realized is when people set goals for themselves and then they do what they say they intended to do, then they're gonna get the results. And what I think sometimes people will set goals and then realize wow, that was a lot harder than I expected, and then they stop doing it. And as far as I'm concerned, I can't help somebody. I was fortunate to have mentored with Gary Keller for a lot of years, the founder of Keller Williams Realty, and I'm no longer at Keller Williams, by the way, but I always respect Gary, and he was an awesome mentor to me and somebody that helped me out tremendously in my journey. And he always said, I don't ever have to fire anybody. He says, I just set a standard so high that people just opt out. Like, I don't ever have to say to somebody, hey, you're fired. You just say, okay, this is what you're going to do. And then they choose to either do it or don't come back. So I always kind of went with that philosophy. Like, we set high standards, and the people that are willing to do that, they're going to keep showing up, and they're going to achieve the standard, or they're going to deselect themselves.
For sure. It sounds like special forces or whatever. Ring the bell, ring the bell, ring the bell. We don't want you here. Your mama ain't good enough. Your daddy don't like you. Ring the bell.
Man.
Get out.
Get it done, baby. Get it done.
Love this. Larissa, anything you want to add on that before I turn to you? A question about headshots. Anything you want to add to the previous segment, Larissa?
No, but what David was talking about with everybody having their own things to focus on and being measured by that versus a salesperson being measured by the same thing that your VA is being measured as, I think is really important just to note. So when we're thinking about, the tracking and all of that, yes, we should be focusing on what people are producing, as long as we're recognizing how what they're producing plays a bigger role in the company.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do as a company.
No, for sure. I love that. And I think part of it is, I think this has been said by you, David, and Larissa in some way, I think is the saying, is the right person on the bus. If they're on the bus, are in the right seat, all those kind of things, I think, go far before you may fire somebody, whatever. So if you're listening here today, especially if you have an empathetic boss like Larissa or David, before you leave that company, just one idea for those listening, maybe consider, hey, maybe you're not in the right department. Maybe you're in the food services department. You're like failing every day, wondering what's wrong. And you should be in the shipping department. Who knows? When I was at the United Nations, Larissa and David, before I was fired, I think that was part of the problem. My job was good, as it were, and provided well for my family, but there was always a friction. And I realized I'm a content guy. You all know, I don't even know what to kind of call the guy I am. But I remember meeting a lady, we were at the Japanese mission to the UN, Larissa and David. And I greeted the young lady there. This is a few years ago, American style, whatever it means. Hey, my name is Ramon. How are you? What's going on? My boss, French boss. And you could see somehow the girl kind of recoiled, not in a nasty way, just a bit overwhelmed. And my French boss, Ramon, you greeted so wrong. She's a female. She's young. She's from Japan. You can't just bring the Western hello. You shocked her. And I'm like, dude, you're right. Next time I learned, arigato, hello, and and they loved me then. So, I don't know where that came from, but learning to know where each other is. Moving on.
You're awesome, Ramon. You're the best, bro.
Well, thank you. You and my mom think so. Thanks, David.
Ramon. I can't even say it like that. I just.
That's how I felt it. I can do another accent to my mentor. His name was Mr. Tirambaranathan. I've been shared before. He's the one. I heard the word pause a few years before Larissa brought it, but she reintroduced it to me. He would tell me when I would be upset and go into his office crying, Ramon, slow down, Ramon. Don't write the email right now. And I mimic him in honor for those listening in case somebody doesn't like it. His name was Mr. Tirambaranathan, Hindu gentleman, and I loved him dearly. And so I always say his voice as I can in respect of him. So
have you ever tried stand-up, Ramon? Have you ever done stand-up?
Since you asked, David, and now we're getting into I'm supposed to be the host, but David's he's grilling me and getting into my business, Larissa, but I will answer the question since you've embarrassed me in front of thousands of people on the Rundown with Ramon. So yes, David, one day I was the treasurer for the National Society of Black Engineers. NSBE, anybody NSBE out there? Woo! And they had swimwear, formal wear, and comedy. Yes, David, I must say, I won the swimwear contest. Very proud of that. And I won the formal wear. David and Larissa, the only time people laughed when I did the comedy routine is when I left the stage. In a bad way, because comedy is an art. So, David, thank you for thinking that. But
I think you could do it, and I think you could do it very, very well if you chose to do it.
I'll accept that. I think I'll stick to being the host of Rundown with Ramon and hanging out with David and Larissa. But thank you, David. We'll try that one day. But I will say, one day I was on stage.
We should do it together, man. We'll both go do an open mic. That'd be fun.
I will do that. Let's do that. I was on stage with Steve Harvey's comedy guy once, and okay, I'm going to ask Larissa to vote on this before I tell the answer. Larissa, he started making fun of me. He was dissing my clothes and everything because we had some time to kill. Again, this is Steve Harvey's comedy guy, a guru of comedy. So I had a choice, Larissa. Do I fire back? Because as David's hinting, I'm pretty witty, I think. Or do I just be quiet and just smile and nod? Larissa, what do you think Ramon did? Did I fire back and try to diss him too, in a fun way? Or did I just smile and stand there and take it all?
What did you do? I think you fired back.
Okay. David, what do you think I did?
I would say you fired back.
No, both you're wrong.
No.
The reason I did it, because in the moment, and I think I made the right decision, I figured he's a professional comedian. Know what I mean? And so that's why, and I realized if I would have even done like the person who's in the front row at a comedy event and they start to, you just don't do that. This guy's or girl's a professional. But listen, we're on the Rundown with Ramon. I hope you all love that comedic relief. This is great, which is what we're all about. Larissa Harrington, I'm curious, what do you think about professional headshots? The point being here, Larissa, I personally think imagery is very important. Whether people need to get professional headshot or not, I don't know. But I'd like to know what you think about this aspect of imagery, and especially, Larissa, you are a creator. You're not just a therapist and a mind person, but you are out there. You do content. You use video a lot. So where do you stand helping the audience here understand how important or not, and one put in your mouth, that a good headshot is? And if either way, explain your answer, please.
Yeah, so I definitely use my newish iPhone and take my own pictures every day and do my own videos every day. And quarterly, I get professional photos done. Not every time do I get like the straight headshot, but I do get lifestyle pictures and to update website and to put on socials and things like that, because I do think that it matters. And as in this session today, and as I'm like looking at all of your beautiful smiles, both of you have like beautiful smiles and it looks great on this Zoom recording. And I also love seeing the professional shots that really like show who you are and that energy that you can feel through the screen. Because I've been hired before just because people have said they saw my picture.
That's right.
And they felt like energetically connected to just my picture from a professional shot that I did. And I love seeing your professional shots, Ramon. Didn't you just get new I did. Business cards, headshots or something done? Yeah.
I did.
Right. I love seeing the professional headshots. And I think for some people, they matter.
Sure.
Maybe in other places, they don't matter as much. But for me, I value them. And I think they're worth investing in.
David, I'll show my cards in a minute. I'll show them off since Larissa's making me pull out my business cards and show them off. But David, what are your thoughts? You're a creator as well, David. Professional headshots or not, meaning iPhone or otherwise. But the point is imagery important is what I'm asking. That's what
it is. Of course it is. Yeah. And I go back to my real estate days where we used to, I used to have a new headshot taken probably every 6 months, and it's not quite as important to me now. But it's kind of funny. You used to have this joke in real estate. You guys may relate. Like you get this real estate agent's card, and then she shows up, and you're like, "Holy cow, is that this person's grandmother?" Right? Because it's like the picture's like 40 years old. But sorry, real estate agents, but you probably, if you're in the industry, you get it. But yeah, listen, I mean, I think right now with the phones and the technology and video, I mean, we do so much with video now. I think a headshot's, yeah, I'm in the middle, Ramon. I'm not sure. The challenge I have, to be honest with you, is I just got one done 6 months ago, and then now I don't even like it anymore, so I'm not using it. So I spent like $250 for a photo shoot, and it's just like, so I don't know, man. I'm in the middle. I'm just focusing on so much video content right now. Yeah. I guess.
And it works. Yeah. I follow you. We follow each other's. So I like what you're doing. And here's my business card there. I have a different picture of each one there. So
I love it.
Larissa, one thing, and we have a few minutes left here in Rundown with Ramon. Again, thank you, Larissa Harrington, for being here today. David Hill, thanks for being here today. But quickly, Larissa, can you just talk to those, Larissa, who don't like their imagery? And I don't want to be so raw, but they don't like how they look. I know people like that. One young lady I was talking to, the reason she didn't want to go on video, she just told me, family member Ramon, I just have some issues. I'll leave it at that, she said. But what's your advice to people, Larissa? And maybe it's, don't worry about it, don't go on video. Or is there anything that you can think of, not knowing the person, that you could guide them like, hey, here's maybe a few things you can think about to start to use your face or voice, or maybe it's not needed. But Larissa, what do you think with all that I threw at you?
Yeah, I think for me, what comes up, you know how my brain works, I'm looking at, well, why not? And instead of saying just forcing you to go on video, like looking into the deeper things around why you don't feel comfortable. Is there like a visibility block? You don't want to show up? Is it that you don't love the way you look? Like that's something that we would want to focus on, not necessarily to have to work with me, but like as a person, looking at the why and helping to get some healing around why you are not showing up. And especially I see that with entrepreneurs. I have a lot of clients that are like that too, right? They want to grow their business, but they won't show up. And a lot of my clients are working with people like David, right? Like sales coaches and business coaches. And so I do the deeper inner work of like, okay, your coach is telling you to do this thing. Like, let's go deeper into why you're not doing the thing that is going to get you to be successful. Yeah. And that visibility block is huge. And there's a lot of people where they don't love the way they look because of their weight or wrinkles or whatever it is. And just like we were talking about with the wanting the newest and latest and greatest of things, where it's like, no matter how much new stuff you get, it's never enough. The same around appearance, right? No matter how much weight you lose or no matter what kind of clothes you're wearing, if you never feel good enough, that's something that needs to get addressed. Yeah. Instead of like, we'll just go beyond video.
No, you're right. There's deeper issues to it. We need to have a part 2 of this whole segment. I can go on for more time, but this segment is over. Larissa Harrington, one more time, can you tell us how we can reach you? What's the best way for the audience here, the Rundown with Ramon audience, to reach Larissa Harrington?
Yeah, thanks, Ramon. So Strong by Nature Wellness on all the socials and the website.
Definitely. Do DM Larissa if you're hearing something you like, DM her and ask her how she can help work with you. David Hill, how can people reach you? What's the best way to get in contact with you, David Hill?
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge, Larissa, as I loved what you just said about people, not wanting to share and go on video. So thanks for saying that, Larissa. Just 100% agree with you, Ramon. I appreciate you, sir. Easiest way to get in touch with me is David I. Hill. That's my social on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, David I. Hill. And if you want to know more about me, the website is davidhill.link. That's it, davidhill.link. Everything's there. So appreciate you, Ramon. Thanks for doing this.
It's a pleasure, man. Larissa Harrington, thanks for joining us. David Hill, thanks for joining us. My name is Ramon Ray, and you've just been watching the expert panel on the Rundown with Ramon Ray. No, Ramon. Yeah. You know what? You just were watching the expert panel. Take it as you wish. Well, that concludes our rundown with Ramon. Again, I'm Ramon Ray. You can get to know me better at RamonRay.com. Check out my new venture at ZoneOfGenius.com. ZoneOfGenius.com. Connect with me on Instagram. Let me know how you like the show, what you'd like to see covered in future episodes of the show with Rundown with Ramon. One way to do that is via Instagram at Ramon Ray Smart Hustle, or you can just see me at RamonRay.com. But listen, thanks for watching the Rundown with Ramon. We'll be here every week to help you live a better life or build your business. Thanks for watching.